Hello and welcome to the top 8 round of the Miyagi championships here. We've got the top 8 deck distribution here for you in this one with 3 decks left in the top 8. It's a Nell, the first time I believe in the Japan Championship Series since OP08 released that Red Purple Law is not the top deck in the top 8. There are 2 of them left along with 1 Black Yellow Luffy, 1 Rob Lucci, and 1 Vegapunk as we saw in the previous round. If you didn't go check out that video, Vegapunk taking on Blue OP01 Doflamingo. It was an exciting match. It was such a cool one. I highly recommend that you look at that. But you already know the matchup of this video based on the title and thumbnail. It's going to be Black Yellow Luffy versus Vegapunk. So although we don't actually know the Vegapunk's list at the time of this recording, I do have the Black Yellow Luffy's list, so I will be able to provide exactly, what everything does, the options provided. But the Vegapunk, we did see it last round, so we have a pretty good idea of what is in their deck and the different options based on the list that I showed you guys in the previous video, and I will try to have a more coherent list in this one as well. I did a lot of thinking and a lot of looking and stuff, double checking and things like that. So I've compiled a Vegapunk list that I think is pretty accurate for the most part. And so in this one, it's going to be really interesting with 2 yellow leaders, one being a half yellow leader, this Black Yellow Luffy, and then the Vegapunk being a whole yellow leader. It'll be curious along with the removal in the battle. I think just as always with Black Yellow Luffy, 5-cost Sabo, the blocker, is going to be one of the most important cards of the deck as something to be able to combat the different removal that is in the deck. You got the Rocket Head Luffys, you got the Yamatos, you got the Onamis, really help out in trying to establish and control the board, but those 5-cost Sabo is going to prevent that. I also think the 5-cost Luffy, not the Egghead one, but the starter deck one, is going to be one that is super influential as well. Being able to battle against the Yamatos, the Katakuris, the 7-drop Linlins that come down on the field. But before we unpause, just want to make this very clear. I am watching a recording of the official live stream and doing my own unofficial unique English commentary. If you do want to go watch this, link will be in the description below. As always, don't worry about that. But let's get into the match for those of you that want to watch. This is the Black Yellow Luffy's hand. Not an awful hand. I think they mulligan for this. You got the Hiyori to kind of set up some combo with the Egghead Luffy right there, that 5-drop, and then you got a baby Sabo and a baby Luffy. So with that Brothers Searcher right there, if that finds an important piece like the 5-cost Sabo, could be really, really good in this game because there is removal for the Vegapunk deck, but it's removal that goes into the trash and not the bottom of the deck. So could be nice if you find that 5-cost Sabo to continuously cycle it like with those babies and be able to draw cards, right? And really filter your hand. So not an awful starting hand, I think, going into a mulligan. The Vegapunk has 2 Liliths in their hand. That 3-drop Searcher we saw was very important. We have a Please Help Me, which can be really nice not only for counter, right, as a counter event, but putting in life to be able to get things back like that 5-drop Luffy that we saw in the previous round. And then we have a 5-drop Onami on top of that. So pretty even starting hands, I feel like, for both players as we get into this game. Remember, on the 2-Dawn turn, as the Vegapunk is going second right here, they will be able to play one of those 3 to 5 cost characters that they have on the field. The Black Yellow Luffy going first in this one. I don't know who exactly won the rock paper scissors that they did, but that is neither here nor there. We're going into this. So 1-Dawn opting not to use the Searcher event, so that is real interesting in my opinion, not utilizing that right away, but is going to go right away, use that Lilith card, that Lilith having a trigger saying if your leader is Vegapunk, play this card. So in the first swing is going to be able to get a search off with that Lilith. I'd imagine that they'd let that trigger go through. Top decking a Garp could be something that we see a 6K swing right here to just go ahead and use that Lilith. Look at the top 5, I believe it is. to find an egghead card. So grabbing a Please Save Me yet again. We've seen this a couple times where there are options like the Onami in the deck, but the Vegapunk player going always for that Please Save Me. And as the black yellow Luffy is using that Garp, just want to make a note that if you're wondering what the Vegapunk player is using the dice for, the dice is for searching. I saw that they said that on their official Twitter. So they've got one die there. That means they've searched one time in their deck with the Liliths and stuff like that. The black yellow Luffy player going all in on these searches did find a 5-cost Sabo off of this search, found 2 of them to be exact, and I think especially if you find 2 of them, you definitely need to grab one of them. Again, one of the most important cards of your deck. The first search, I believe, found the starter deck Luffy that I also said was a pretty important card. So right then and there, we've got 2 excellent options as we move into the 4-Dawn turn for the Vegapunk. So playing the other Lilith down right now, going to have a second search. We'll see what they get. They got some Chakas, Edison, Egghead Luffy, but they are going to grab one of the 2 Chakas in there. Chaka, a very cool card to be able to either put in your life and have a similar trigger to the Lilith, where since your leader is Vegapunk, you can just play, right? That might be something that they do right here. It establishes a 6,000 power blocker coming from life. So really good spot right now for this Vegapunk. I feel like you got 2 5,000 power bodies to do some damage potentially, and then also a Chaka coming down on the field where you're still going to be sitting probably at 2 life. Now with 5 Dawn right here, could be interesting to see what we do at this point. Could be this 5-drop Luffy. Get yourself going in terms of the, damaging yourself on life to be able to get to that sweet spot. Does trash an ace off of life, so is pretty nice, I would say. You like seeing the ace in there when you're ready to use the leader effect, drawing into that Luffy, and after the leader swing, trashing the Flampe, the Vegapunk going in their turn is going to get a Chaka in life and then an Onami. The Onami is a pretty nice card that came in OP08, is going to pop that Luffy being such an important card right there in that game plan, a constant 8,000 power swing. The Onami, just to give you an official reading, if you did not see the Onami like on screen that I put on, you didn't read it fast enough, has an on play of trashing a trigger card from your hand. You KO to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Then if you have 3 or less cards in hand, draw 1 card. So at this point, only doing the KO effect, which I think was honestly correct. You want to get rid of that Luffy. You don't want it swinging 8 basically and damaging themselves in there. Might be playing the Hiyori this turn, might be doing a combo of like Hiyori and the baby. The Hiyori would allow you to know what your top life is, and especially with the Egghead Luffy, especially with the 5-cost Sabo, right? And you've got Sabo babies as well as multiple Luffy babies in hand. You would be able to get yourself to a 7,000 power leader, right? You would be able to damage yourself a little bit and get one of those strong bodies on board. But instead, opting for just a Sabo right now is going to be drawing into a Gecko. Gecko going to be really nice for the late game to be able to chain out these babies and evolutions, especially when you hit your 10 Dawn turn. So going to be trashing what looks like a Rocket Luffy. No reason to have multiple in hand. I feel like it's fine to have one in the trash. And then a baby Luffy as well, but instead opting for a baby Sabo. Maybe one of the things that they're thinking about after doing the 7k swing and proccing the Chaka blocker is when they get the Sabo in the discard pile, they really want to be able to have a Sabo baby ready to go off of the Gecko. So could be something that we see in the future. Top decking a 7-drop Lin, this Vegapunk right here is just going to go ahead and play it. Maybe saying right now, okay, are you going to have me gain a life, or are you going to accelerate your gameplay? And look at this board that the Vegapunk has right now, and it looks like they are going to trash 1 card from their life. It's going to be another baby Sabo. So no real use of having multiple baby Sabos in the trash. You only really need 1, so that feels kind of bad, but is going to be putting that Onami in life, trying to get that Onami trigger. You don't totally mind having the second baby in there because you could Gecko for double baby Sabo if you had access to multiple blocker Sabos. You don't have that right now, but you could in the future, especially off the draw, maybe cycling a couple Sabos. But is now on this turn, I believe at 8 Dawn right now. They did get a Makino and also another baby Sabo. So that's 4 baby Sabos, all 4 of them now in access. That's honestly a little bit too many, I feel like, for the black yellow Luffy player. The Vegapunk player has 3 Please Save Me's, I think, in hand right now, blocking the hand a little bit, so we can't officially tell, but I think I saw 3 of those cards. So thinking about what they want to do, might be attaching one on the Sabo and swinging 7 right here. So this 7k swing is going to leave their blockers open, is going to prompt that Onami. No trigger though on that, just utilizing the Nami at this point to be like, okay, maybe what I do instead is I just keep this in hand for counter, maybe be able to play it in the next turn. So using this Hiyori and manipulating their top of their life, maybe think about playing a baby right now as they've got 2 rested on, going to be that Luffy. It is going to be the Rocket Luffy right there. That Rocket Luffy is going to be able to pop a character if they so choose, something that I think they're really considering at this point, because with the opposing player having an Onami in hand and also being able to pop characters as well, especially as we get to the later stages of the game, right? I'm sure both of these players are very aware of what their lists look like just from talk and looking around, you know, at the tables and whatnot. This Luffy could go down at a certain point or be put in a place where you don't want it. So going to be interesting. It looks like they are swinging 7 now after that baby evolution they had on the Rocket Luffy. Maybe trying to get that Chaka to hit the field as well. Not a ton of usable counter right now in the Vegapunk's hand, but if they use that Chaka right on that play, they're going to have to replace this Lilith. So the Lilith is going to go into the trash right here. You could get it off of a Please Save Me trigger, right? Be able to play that on play effect, but attaching the rest of the garb, swinging, what is that, 6,000 at the garb. Going to be seeing this first life. We don't know what this is, but it is no trigger. It's going to be a 2k Flampe, so you don't really mind the 2k Flampe at this point, because the Flampe is going to be a nice 2k counter in hand if you've got to use up all of your Dawn for reasons or another, but is just going to pop that Lilith right there, getting both of them off of the field, making it a little bit harder, I feel like, and less swings coming at them, especially with no blockers. So a decent amount of counter in hand. You have 1 2k and a couple 1ks as a 7,000 power leader right here, but especially if another big character comes down on the field, as I think a Flampe was top decked as well, going to start off by swinging 9. Oh no, Please Save Me. They have all 4 of those Please Save Me events in hand. Definitely slightly awkward, I feel like, with 9 Dawn left. So this Linling going to be swinging 9 right now. Remember that the Luffy is a 7,000 power leader, is going to have to pitch 2 cards and maybe thinking about this Makino and Sabo to go up to 10 and get out of this. Maybe forcing them to be like, okay, if you want to go for game, you got to swing with those Chakas right there, and you have to add Dawn to these Chakas to be able to win in this game. So good news is all of your characters up to this point have a base of at least 5,000 power as the Vegapunk, and so going to be swinging 7 with this Onami. So just a simple 1k counter is needed off of this. You will also be at 10 Dawn next turn to be able to Gecko, but is thinking about this baby Luffy or baby Sabo right there, going to pitch that baby Sabo. Only 2k left in hand, so could math it out and could actually win on this turn. But if this Chaka does not hit life, you're not going to be able to win. So you do have to attach probably about like 3 Dawn, I would say, at this point onto the Chaka. Go ahead, swing 9. That would math it out, and then put the rest on the other Chaka to hopefully win the game. So this 7k swing is going to match, so it's just going to be a little 1k out. could get out of this pretty quickly, looking around to see what options they have still available, right? They've seen a couple baby Luffys. Do they want to trash a baby Luffy or the Garp? I think probably the Garp is the answer in this, although you can't Garp leader effect. You still have one life. This is the whole problem right here. And so it's a tough decision, because if you allow that swing to go through, they attach the rest of the Dawn and you don't have enough counter in your hand to be able to stop the final Chaka with what would that be, 7 Dawn attached to it for the game. But if you counter out of this one because you need to be able to live, right, to continue the game, you're still sitting at 1 life and you don't really have a great way to be able to get that life out. So going to be using the leader effect on that Please Save Me to get a 5-cost character on the field, and is going to put that Onami down right there. Going to be trashing another Please Save Me, is going to pop that Sabo. So that Sabo is going to be popped. No blockers left on the field, just a Hiyori and a Garp. And it's honestly not looking good for this black yellow Luffy. The Vegapunk is doing awesome right now with its cards. It's really crazy to see this Vegapunk deck in action, the first time that we're seeing it in this tournament, and it has a really good shot to make the top 4, which would be kind of crazy. So looking at the black yellow Luffy's hand now, is thinking about leader effect and also the Gecko right here, but you can't leader effect until you have 1 life left, and the only way that you're going to be able to do that is the Makino, right? The Makino, or blind flip the Gecko, right? You haven't seen what this life is. You haven't played something like a Makino or something to rearrange your life or anything like that. So this is an unknown card right here. So you have to make a choice right now. And it looks like it's going to be Gecko. I think it's going to be 2 babies right here playing a Makino. So the Makino played actually is not a bad idea. The Makino would allow you to take that life, right, and then you would rearrange your life, which would be 0, right, unless that ruling is actually wrong. So it looks like they are going to be doing that Makino play. It is going to be a 2K Hiyori, which is very nice, I would say, and then using leader effect to trash one of those cards. I might be thinking about trashing the Garp. I would keep the 2K in hand, and the Garp is going to be trash. It's going to be Sabo and another card. So thinking about what the other card would be, a card that is probably not needed, right, because it's a life that's probably going to go to the bottom of the deck, is going to evolve into this big Sabo. Draw 2 cards, going to have to trash 2, draws 2 Luffys. So 2 Luffys hit the bin. Actually kind of nice as you swing 9 now, because you're a 7K leader. You only evolved once. Is going to be nice to kind of find if you survive out of this turn with the 2 Luffys that you found off of there, because now this Luffy going to the bottom of the deck doesn't really matter that much, actually. So going to be swinging 9. It looks like it is going to be that Please Save Me, but no trigger off of this point. The trigger on that card, for anyone who does not know, on that event, play up to 1 AK character with the cost of 5 or less from your trash. So could have opted to play a character, but didn't really have a character that they wanted to play over another one of these characters, right? There's no character spots left. You can only have a max of 5 on the field. So going to have to try to math it out, I think, on this. Probably save at least 1 Dawn for the Please Save Me or something of the sorts, but is just going to be swinging 9 right here. And you have to get like 3 swings that go through, 3 out of your 5 swings, because remember, Vegapunk as a leader cannot attack, especially with that Sabo in the field. So the Sabo is going down right away. That's a really good sign right here. Just going to be swinging 7, just going to be trying to match right now. I think you can swing 7 1 2 3 more times and still have Dawn left over for putting something in your life, like the Please Save Me or the Rocket Luffy, right? And I think you would still have enough counter for at least 1 Please Save Me. So this 2K counter right here, it's going to be so close right now. It's really all going to depend on how confident they are that this other card, this Gecko Moria, is a counter card. Because if the Gecko Moria is a counter card, they might not swing, right? They might not do another 7K swing and leave themselves wide open for a bunch of swings off of the Gecko, off of the Garp. Looks like they are going to swing right there. It is going to be that 2K counter. Could swing 2 more times, use leader effect, put a please save me or something in life, and then be able to have enough Dawn for the other please save me. So I think going 2 7s right here off the Chakas is the correct play. And going to be swinging 8 actually off of that Chaka, and then using the rest of the Dawn is going to be a 9 right there, and Vegapunk is going to win the game. Absolutely crazy. The amount of almost like rush, right? We talk about in a lot of these videos how cheating bodies out is so effective, right, of a strategy in the One Piece trading card game right now in this meta. And Vegapunk really capitalizes on that, being able to cheat out 5 cost characters with like 6,000 power. So many characters with at least 5,000 power really puts on the pressure to be able to swing in the next turn. I mean, in the first turn of the game, right? Because with the Vegapunk leader, you only need to rest 1 Dawn to be able to use its effect. You can either gain a life right there, trigger just like we saw off of that Lilith, right? Or be able to just, I mean, it's incredible the plays that this Vegapunk deck can play as something we haven't seen before this tournament in the Japan Championship Series is so cool to watch. But as promised, let's look at some lists. So I have the actual black yellow Luffy list that was played in this video. It was played by user TSK00104 over on Twitter. So congratulations to them for a top 8 run. Very exciting in here. But this list probably doesn't surprise a ton of people when we talk about what we think a black yellow Luffy list in OP08 looks like. Not surprising either that there's no new starter deck cards from the starter decks 15 to 20, no cards from the black deck, Smoker, no cards from the Katakuri deck in here, just kind of the same thing as before, right? Kind of the unique thing, the flavor of what kind of black yellow Luffy you want to play is this Ivankov here, opting for 2 of the blocker Ivankovs. Going down a little bit on the aces, and the aces are kind of interesting to cut down on instead of something like maybe this Luffy right here, this 5-drop Luffy, maybe the Egghead Luffy. I think a lot of times I see people play less of the Egghead Luffys, but maybe Egghead Luffy just being so instrumental in something like the Red Purple Law matchup, because Red Purple Law being one of the more dominant decks, right, plays a whole bunch of 4 cost or lower characters. Egghead Luffy is going to be able to constantly pop those, and you won't have to worry about it being bottom decked, right? Because you are, if you swing with it, you are KOing it immediately and putting it in the trash, safe from the bottom decking. So really cool list, I think, right here. Playing the bunch of 2Ks right here, 12 of them in total with the Makinos, Flampes, and Hioris. You've got your Searchers in the Garp and the 3 Brothers event. You've got some more draw in the Sabo. Some self-inflicting life stuff, not only with the regular baby shenanigans, right, that you get in this deck, and the Flampe, the Makino, the Hiyori doing a little bit of setup for the babies, but also this Luffy. I think this Luffy is so good, and I think it's really important. So I love seeing it in the deck. But let's move on to what I assume is probably the Vegapunk list. So watching the top 16 and the top 8 round, this is what I believe is the Vegapunk list. Now, I made this myself. There are some assumptions in here, like the Frankie. I don't know if we really ever saw Frankie in the matches, but I think Frankie being a 2K with a crazy trigger, right, is something that is probable in this deck. It's probably one of your 2Ks that you're playing, considering that you play the Flampe. We saw plenty of Flampes in that battle. Edison in there as well. Might not be a full 4 if the Vegapunk feels like they don't need 12 2Ks, but we know there's at least 2 Linlins. We know there's at least 2 Rygos, and I think there's probably 2 of this searcher. We didn't see it too much in this match, but we saw it a couple times in the top 16 match. He possesses the world's most brilliant mind right there. I believe that this is a pretty accurate list in general. The Robin, I do want to note this because a lot of people probably think that this is somewhat of a bulk card, you know, being 3 cost, 4,000, only 1k counter, but that trigger being so good if your leaguer is the egghead type, which by the way is Vegapunk, right? You get to draw 2 cards, so just so good in my opinion in this list. The Nami really takes this to a whole other level, and yes, I know all match I said Nami instead of just Nami, and they're 2 completely different cards. My apologies on that. Too busy thinking about the Nami and OP06. But the combination of these cards, all of these 5 drops and less in the deck for this Vegapunk for 1 Dawn, being able to put them in life that have these incredible triggers, right? Playing the card on the Lilith, being able to search, being able to play the Edison and draw 2, trash 2 if you have 2 or less life, which on turn 1 at least, or the first turn that they get to swing at you, you probably only have 2 life after this triggers. The Chaka being able to play right away. The Luffy, right, with 2 or less life, which Vegapunk being able to play this trigger. The trigger on the Please Save Me, just really good, honestly. Being able to play these different characters in life is such a cool and unique deck overall that is so exciting to see. And then a good selection, in my opinion, of these boss monsters. One thing that I would be interested to see in this deck, and I don't know if you can fit it, is playing the 10-drop ace. I think the 10-drop ace would be interesting, but from what we've seen in the couple games, I don't know if the game actually lasts that long, right? It kind of seemed like that the Vegapunk was every single turn trying to at least 1 time use the leader effect for something in its hand. And so the Yamato, playing the Yamato as we saw in the top 16 match, still allows you to use the leader effect. The Katakuri still allows you to use the leader effect. The Lin still allows you to use the leader effect. So maybe just opting for that kind of style in a lot of situations. And I mean, I don't know. This list was so cool. These matches have been so fun. And we'll take a look at what the top 4 match is going to be. I believe the top 4 match, it looks like it is going to be Vegapunk again, going up against Red Purple Lost. So what is probably Vegapunk's most formidable foe in the format, right? I don't think it's a surprise that in this tournament, in the top 16, we've seen a huge decrease in the starter deck laws because of the new starter deck cards, right? Enhancing several of these decks, that we've seen a deck like Vegapunk start to go up in stock and value. So really cool to see. I'm excited to see the top 4, and I hope you are too. Make sure to comment and subscribe how you feel about these decks. Hopefully you enjoy this. Again, this is not the actual Vegapunk deck. This is just what I assume is the Vegapunk deck. Just want to make that very, very clear in this, and I hope to see you in the next video.